Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with news of the day for April 1st, 2026. I feel that there's a lot of classical music news that isn't getting the attention that it deserves. And so, at least once a year, I think we should review some of the most important news flashes coming over the wires. And so let's get started. First, this is terribly exciting. Klaus Mekala has been appointed music director of the Vienna and Berlin Philharmonics simultaneously. This is very, very interesting because in addition to having the Orchestra de Paris and Chicago and the Concertgebouw, Vienna and Berlin are obviously going to be major feathers in his cap. Of course, the question then becomes, how is he going to arrange all of these obligations in terms of timing? Well, Vienna and Berlin is no problem. Mekala supposedly said when he was interviewed that, they're very close to each other, the two cities, and so he can just drive back and forth between them as necessary. And the management of the two orchestras has announced that they will stagger their concerts. So if he does the matinee in Berlin, he can drive to Vienna and give the exact same concert at night. So they'll all be scheduled so that he can make the trip back and forth. And if he doesn't feel like driving, they'll provide a helicopter so that he can go between the two venues. It's going to be extremely efficient that way because the orchestras will collaborate in programming and they'll only have to pay for one music director. They can divide up the salary. So Mekala is looking forward to taking on these new appointments as well. Next, this is very, 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 very important. Many of us have wondered what was going to happen to Hyperion Records since it was sold to Universal Music and where that's going. Well, Universal has just announced that Hyperion is going to begin a new series as an adjunct to its romantic piano concertos, which are all being boxed up, and romantic violin concertos, which hopefully soon will be boxed up. They're now doing romantic bassoon concertos. It's about a 75 CD set. It's going to be quite the project. It's going to take many, many years to complete. But the important thing, according to Universal, is that it demonstrates that they are rededicated to classical music projects which are guaranteed to lose money. It just shows how important they feel that the classical repertoire is, that they can choose something which they know is going to be a complete fiscal catastrophe. We look forward to the first issue in spring 2027. In romantic bassoon concertos, the repertoire is still to be determined. Oh, wow. Toccata Classics has announced a complete Sarabji edition. The complete works. Isn't that going to be extraordinary? I know. I just have to speak personally here. Many Sarabjists have been, criticizing me for not treating him with the seriousness that he evidently deserves. And so it's really good to see that a plucky independent label like Toccata is able to support Sarabji. They estimate that the entire project will take approximately 119 years to complete. But we have something to look forward to, assuming that the planet still exists in that time. They're going to include the first recordings of all of his organ music, said to take about 375 hours. That should be something. And, the long Latin opus flagellatum, contrapuntisticum, whatever they call them, they're all going to be there too. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see how that project proceeds. Latest news from London. Norman Lebrecht was rehired by the BBC due to the unacceptably high standards that ensued after they dumped him originally. Apparently, the organization felt a pressing need to lower the bar in order to attract a more popular audience, and so they've asked Mr. Lebrecht to return and continue his how shall we say, crude and sexist and the whole thing. He's going to keep on doing what he does so well. Let's just put it that way. And the BBC will enjoy the lower standards to which it had become accustomed while he was still there. So that's a useful thing. Next, oh yeah, a new budget label is starting up. This has become, because of streaming services and whatnot, it's so easy now to sort of have your own label and do your own thing. And they're specializing in all kinds of odd ways. Well, this is a budget label dedicated entirely to Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, one of the most popular pieces of classical music in existence. The label will only contain recordings of the Four Seasons, and it will have a dedicated YouTube channel and its own streaming service, so that you can hear hundreds and hundreds of versions of Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 100 years a century, 1,000 years a millennium. It's nothing but the Four Seasons. And I know that we'll all, rejoice at that opportunity. I know for a fact that they're going to be working very closely with NPR on their pledge drives, so that pledgors can have, instead of making requests to hear the Four Seasons every 5 minutes, they can just be directed to the Four Seasons channel and listen to it endlessly as they, write checks to support more Four Seasons. It's interesting to see how that works out. In the technological world, oh, wow, technology. The AI program known as Mr. Ed has announced yet another completion of Beethoven's 10th Symphony. But unlike the other completions of Beethoven's 10th Symphony, Mr. Ed's completion of the 10th Symphony is supposed to be more Beethoven-like than even Beethoven was able to achieve. The work has 4 movements. It's not a choral symphony at all. It has 4 big, juicy, Beethoven-ish movements that are garbed in Beethoven-ish orchestration with Beethoven-ish tunes. It lasts about 45, 46 minutes. It even has optional repeats, which make it last longer. And Mr. Ed claims that not even Beethoven himself could have written a more Beethoven-ish Beethoven 10th. If this works out and it's popular, Mr. Ed is already working on completing Elgar's 3rd, Mahler's 10th, Schubert's Unfinished. The list is practically endless. And we really have an enormous amount of thrilling musical experiences to look forward to, I have no doubt. This is a wonderful new project that's independently funded. Apparently, the financing for this project is somewhat mysterious, but Christian Thielemann has been named as the conductor of the new Artete Musik series. You may recall that Decca had the Entartete Musik series, which was music that was banned by the Nazi regime as being degenerate. Well, the Artete Musik series is generate. It's music that was heartily approved by the Nazi regime as being completely racially pure and Aryan to the core. And Thielemann will be conducting the Aryan International Orchestra, which is sort of a pickup ensemble, I gather. All I know about it is that it's all male, but it's the Aryan National Orchestra doing Artete Musik. It's time, since the Berlin Philharmonic has released all of those 1940s radio broadcasts, with Fort Wengler and people like that. It's obviously time for the Nazi era to be completely rehabilitated and for us to be able to sift through and judge for ourselves the quality of the music that was approved by that regime. So I'm really looking forward to hearing those releases. I have a feeling there will be many surprises in store. Another new label, they're popping up like mushrooms. They really are. The most famous and most prolific unknown composer in all of Western civilization is, of course, anonymous. And so a new label has sprung up somehow, Anonymous Classics. It's a new label devoted entirely to great works by nobody. And there are tens of thousands of great works by nobody. This is in collaboration with Apple Music streaming services. So for people who find the world of classical music and the names and they're just bewildering and all those foreign pronunciations and categories of things you can't figure out, all you'll have to do is tune to the Anonymous channel and you'll be able to hear tons and tons of classical music by nobody. And who knows what we're going to find there. I have a feeling that it's going to be quite remarkable, particularly in the early music categories where there are just acres and acres of moldering manuscripts of sacred liturgical music and little organ hoogies and harpsichord widgy digis and things like that. All of that's going to be recorded. And the real key in seeing if this project is going to function properly will be to determine whether or not they can organize it in a way that's useful. Because otherwise, you're just going to have a blob of 10 million hours of anonymous music. Now, that may be wonderful for, doctors' offices or elevators or things like that. But for serious listeners, I think it's going to have to be a little bit more detailed than that. It'll have to be categorized in some way. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this stuff shakes out and gets categorized. A very interesting news item came out just yesterday, actually. A federal judge ruled that the Trump administration had to stop construction of its fabulous ballroom on the site where the White House East Wing used to be. The capacity of the ballroom was supposed to be 999 people. It was absolutely crazy. But that didn't slow down the Trump administration at all. They have decided to repurpose the Kennedy Center as the Trump ballroom until the whole legal business gets worked out and they can reattach it to the White House as they originally planned. Having the Kennedy Center is quite handy because it's already there. The rooms are already there. All they have to do is paint it gold, and they're in business. The National Symphony Orchestra will serve as the in-house ensemble in the new Trump Kennedy Center ballroom. But they have been promised to have complete artistic freedom in terms of repertoire. So their music director, John Andrea Noceda, immediately announced that the orchestra would embark on a Pedersen cycle to be performed in connection with events hosted in the new Kennedy Center Trump Ballroom. And he wasn't concerned about any difficulty with the repertoire. He said, they're never going to notice the difference anyway. So let's see what magnificent and glittering events are hosted in the new Kennedy Center Trump Ballroom. I can hardly wait to see the news and the videos. Oh, my goodness. Oh, and this just in, to conclude, Klaus Mekela has just been made music director designate of the Cleveland Orchestra and San Francisco Symphonies as well. I mean, it's just avalanche. It's snowballing. Before you know it, there's only going to be one conductor in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's going to have all of them. But yeah, Cleveland and San Francisco said that they are looking forward enormously to having Mekela as their inspirational music director to attract young audiences back to the symphony for the first time since, ever, because they've never been attracted to the symphony. And it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see what other orchestras he picks up in the coming days and weeks and minutes and seconds. So that's the basic news, the headline news for April 1st, 2026. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.